Does marketing for restaurants work? Is it money well spent for hospitality right now? How do you spend it? Where do you spend it? If you're new to this and you have no money, how do you get started? If you've been doing it for what seems like forever and you're not sure if you're getting the most bang for your buck, how do you fine tune it? And what difference has the pandemic made, if any, to all of this? Welcome to the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival's April Industry Forum. Does marketing work? My name is Pat Nourse. I'm the creative director of the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. And to help me tease out this question, I have an action-packed, stellar panel for you today to kick the question around. I'd like to welcome, please jump in with your screens, team. Zap, zap, zap. Kapow. Kapow, kapow. This is just like thunder. It's my great pleasure to welcome our panel for today. We have Marianne Mewett, or Maz, as she prefers to be known. Welcome, Maz. Maz has been working in hospitality marketing in the digital space for more than 17 years across small, medium, and large hospitality groups. She's been with the Australian Venue Company for just over 3 years and is passionate about technology as a tool for improving customer experience and data-driven marketing. Welcome, Maz.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat.
We're also joined by Angelo Labrador. Angelo is the CFO and co-founder of Scoopy Milk Bar. Angelo is a chartered accountant by trade, has worked in technology consulting for the last 5 years, and has seen the power of data being harnessed at the enterprise level, and is now seeking to apply this to hospitality businesses, and specifically his hospitality business, Scoopy Milk Bar. Welcome, Angelo.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for having me.
I hope you brought enough icy treats for everyone.
I don't know if I can give that through the screen, but
soon. You're working on it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, that's a nice segue to our next guest. Kim Teo is a veteran of the startup trenches and is here in her capacity as the CEO and co-founder of Mr. Yum, a company which I think we can all agree is well on the way to achieving Kim's goal. I saw her describe once of it being the Spotify of dining experiences. Welcome.
Thank you.
Guys, the framing of the conversation is, does marketing for restaurants work? Which implies that sometimes it doesn't work. And before we jump into that very juicy topic, I should just throw out one tiny piece of housekeeping. This is a two-way street. This panel of all panels is particularly interested in hearing from you if you're at home or at work or in the park tuned into this. So if you want to look down at the bottom of your screen, someone's already jumping in. Hello. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Rowan. There's the Q&A box there. Oh my goodness, we're already getting a whole bunch of hectic questions already. Does marketing for restaurants work? Well, that's a great question. We'll get back to that. If you have questions, we will endeavour to answer certainly some of them, but use that Q&A box down the bottom. So, when marketing for restaurants doesn't work, who am I going to point to here? Maz, you have sort of worked in venue marketing from the very small to the very big, and I know you've canvassed your colleagues at AVC. What are some of the examples of maybe where things haven't been thought out as well as they could have been?
Absolutely. We had so many examples in this bucket. Definitely a lot of examples. I think one of the classics, and there was quite a few in this category, one of the classics is the offer not really matching the audience. And we had one of the team mention today that there was a cocktail offer at one of our pubs, and they came with matched edible spray scents. So you could spray this scent into the cocktail. But it was at one of our CBD pubs. It's more renowned for sporting events, beer drinking after work, and it really, really didn't hit the mark. But I think that's one of many, many examples. And I think one other one was we attempted to do some real-time marketing based on weather once, and we were so excited because we thought the offer was really strong. It was going out on all of our digital channels, and the rain just ended up becoming an absolute washout, and it didn't matter how strong the offer was, no one was coming in to redeem it. So I think there's a couple of, there's a million more, but those stick out to me as a couple of good examples of things that did not work very well.
What does good venue marketing look like then?
Good venue marketing, I mean, it's a big question, but I think personally we've come a long way. COVID has accelerated the whole digital space as well. And for me, overall, a really good venue marketing or hospitality marketing involves two key components. And one is the brand and the offer side. So that is like the offer of what you're putting, and that might be the promotional offer, but it's also the offer when you arrive in venue. What does the venue look and feel like? What does the food taste like? What is the service like? So that's one side that you have to nail that side, because it doesn't matter what you do online and how amazing you make the venue look, it has to deliver in person. So a really robust digital strategy, and we can talk more about digital, I think, throughout this session, paired with a really strong brand offer, to me, is the ultimate key to successful hospitality marketing.
Have you got any examples from your own experience? I mean, they can be from AVC or from things you've seen other people do that you've thought have really nailed it lately?
Yeah, sure. I think a couple of good examples. I think, we do a lot of activations at AVC, so really nailing that.
What is an activation?
Okay,
those of us in the audience who are tuning in and are like, this sounds great, but I have no idea what Maz is talking about right now.
Good question. So you can have an in-venue or off-site activation. That's just activating a space.
Doing a thing,
creating a space with a theme potentially. And I think the guys here do an excellent job of really nailing the experience in venue and what it looks like and feels like. We did a whole staycation series over summer that was hugely successful and really looked beautiful, and then had a decent campaign behind it. And I felt like that matched the experience. Like what you saw online was what you received once you got to the venue. So I think that's one really good experience. Yeah.
Kim, I'm really pleased to have you here, not just because Mr. Yum is presenting this series of industry forums with Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Great and important conversations, and having your backing is super valuable. But you guys have a helicopter view on what people are doing in hospitality right now. And you're talking to a lot of venues around Australia and around the world. And I think you've got a pretty good sense of what's working and what's not working. What are approaches to marketing that maybe were great 10 years ago, 2 years ago, that maybe are old hat, that we're not that interested in anymore? What's then and what's now?
Yeah, good question. I think it's actually, I don't know how these guys do it so well, because marketing it's so hard to keep up with, and it just continues to change. It's not like, some other more traditional industries where things don't change as much. The platforms keep changing. The way that you engage with the audience keeps changing. I think one that really sticks out is there are a bunch of brands that did really well on Instagram in the early days, absolutely leveraged the organic growth, and it was easy to get followers and grow really fast at one point in time. Maybe I'm showing my age. I'm like, I don't really know how long ago it was, maybe 5 years ago or so. But now it's a pay-to-play platform. Like, you can post organic content. They favor like individuals, not brands. If you are a brand and you're trying to talk to your audience, you have to pay to talk to your audience. So the dynamic shift all over again. I think the hardest thing, what's always changing with marketing, is just that the tools around you keep changing. And what we are seeing, I guess, from a helicopter view is prior to COVID, a lot of venues didn't have even an e-commerce platform. They had people walking in every day. They had regulars that they didn't know their name or their email or their phone number. They were relying on very much a personal relationship and remembering someone's coffee or remembering someone's face and whether they have kids and what schools they go to. And because of COVID having to shut down for a period of time, most brands tried something online, like whether it's takeaway or delivery or some form of something. And it taught them that it's not as hard as what it seemed. Like I think that's the main thing. It really like peeled away the stigma of having an e-commerce platform. Like Shopify maybe seems daunting, but setting up something that you can put 15, 20 items on and start to sell that is not that daunting. And you manage to understand who your customers are and see how frequently they order and try and reuse that information. And I really would love to I really would love for Maz and Angelo to kind of share their stories around how to use that information in not a intrusive way, but in like a value adding way where you're reminding your customers that you're there, but also offering them a reason to come back into your venues. Long-winded version of saying, like, I think there's always going to be like a hypey platform where you can like grow organically very fast. And today that might be TikTok. Like, if you were really good at that and you were targeting a young audience, you'd probably crush it for a period of time. Then it'll become pay to play, and then you'll have to pay to like show up on the platform. So it goes in cycles, and then there'll be the next big thing. But all of that is tying around the fact that if you know who your customers are, you own that information, so you have access to it. You can email them, you can engage with them, you can retarget them. Then everything becomes easier.
Well, let's throw to you on that front, Angelo. I mean, you said you've had a pretty positive experience negotiating. Well, I mean, I don't want to frame anything from the pandemic as being a positive experience, but you've definitely sort of managed to transform the challenges of marketing your business through the pandemic in a way that's been really beneficial to your business. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the pandemic, we were like a lot of people. We actually didn't have a delivery or takeaway offering.
So what's the Scoopy offer as a baseline for those of us who aren't familiar with the business?
So it is a Korean dessert. It's like shaved ice, but I like to call it
bingsu, basically, right?
Sorry?
You do bingsu, basically, right?
Yes, bingsu. So, we didn't have a takeaway offering at the start of the pandemic. And, 1 week out of the lockdown, we were scrambling to figure out how we would package it up and then send that out. We were able to come up with this thing called postcode unlock, where week by week we would post, actually day by day we would post where we would be delivering to around Melbourne. And it got to a point with how organic and shareable the posts were that we were getting interest from as far as Melton and Frankston, Mernda.
And you guys are Melbourne CBD, just to make that clear for people who haven't visited the bricks and mortar shop. These guys are just in a particularly groovy corner of the Melbourne CBD.
Yeah, we're in the city. So, I mean, we didn't justify, jumping on, the delivery platforms like Uber or Deliveroo. We actually managed that ourselves through online ordering. And what that did was it gave the customers a very frictionless sort of shopping experience. It then also allowed us to manage the customer service side directly, whether it be through Instagram or Messenger. And at the core of that was we got to see the data straight away, and we got to drill down on where the highest demand was coming from all over Melbourne. And we've been able to use that data to make decisions ever since.
How did you land on that strategy? We were going from, the good old days to the pandemic times that we now enjoy. How did you get there? We actually started doing online ordering even in our first year. We thought it could be good for the operational side,
That was the main reason why we jumped on, because we thought, it would free up our staff to do other things. We could still service the customer and provide that great, in-house experience in different ways. So we were already introducing our customer to online ordering even before the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, it was kind of like, it's just what but now we're delivering straight to your door. And I think, where the market is, they were primed to like just take that up and just use it like they would, buying clothes online. And now it's just buying food online to your door.
The Spotify food businesses, to quote, someone close to us all right now.
Yes.
Frictionless, and that frictionless thing is a really important point. We've just had a question from the audience that I think ties into that. I mean, I was wondering, when you were setting up the business, how much you budgeted for marketing. Did you give a lot of thought to that, when you were first conceptualizing what your business looked like?
So none of us, none of the partners or anybody involved really had a marketing background. What we really focused on was more so the creative side. So we actually have someone on our team who's a designer by trade. And so I think that decision, maybe not by choice, but that decision forced us to go more so focusing on like the brand route and how could we represent ourselves in different creative ways, through Instagram, through, different social medias, Facebook, anywhere really.
Now, I'm gonna seize on that word brand, and I might throw to you there, Maz. I'm a restaurateur. I'm a hospitality business owner. I own a bar. I own a cafe. I own one of those things. I have historically been marketing my business in exactly the way you describe. I have been putting out an offer of food and drink that I think is good and expecting people to come to my door, and that's sort of worked maybe, but I've never had a marketing budget. I don't know what a brand is exactly, except maybe Coca-Cola's a brand. I've heard of that. What do we mean when we say brand, and why is that important?
Good question. I think brand encompasses a whole bunch of stuff. It's, from a basic point of view, it's the logo, but it really has to be across all elements. Your brand, create a brand Bible. It can be really basic, but create a brand Bible around what is the look and feel? What do you want the customer experience to be like? And how does that brand flow through all of the elements and all of the customer journey all the way through? And that can be online to in-venue visit all the way through. And what
does that mean? So let's say I own a bistro in the suburbs of Melbourne. What would my top line brand Bible be that I need to arrive at?
I think looking at things like obviously the menu, I always think starting with menu, you obviously, when you create a venue from scratch or refurb a venue, for example, the look and feel is very important, but alongside that look and feel, the menu is actually really, really critical. So I think making sure that that's not a separate conversation to what the actual venue looks like, what the logo looks like, it all really needs to tie together. So having things like, what is this brand experience to me, and what do I want the customer to walk into? And that can be, what do I want the greeting to look like? What is the tone of voice that I'm going to use across social? And what do my staff look like? Are they casual? How do they talk to customers? And then, on top of that sort of visual and physical experience, it's do all of the touch points align. Like when I make a booking online and I get my booking confirmation, is the language right? Is the information all there? There's a lot of part, and I think one of the simplest exercises for any venue or business to do is to map out that customer journey. How customers come in, are they signing up for a newsletter? Are they making a booking online? Are they walking into the venue? There's are they just emailing you, from work? There's a lot of entrances to the businesses that customers can take, but mapping that out and understanding how the brand elements tie together at each of those stages is a really, really powerful exercise.
I think for some people in the audience, there's going to be a lot of people nodding along and agreeing. Other people are going to be saying, wait, my menu is part of my marketing?
It is absolutely part of your marketing, particularly these days with digital menus. You know, a digital menu is a reflection of the venue. It's, you know, previously we had the pieces of paper or the printed cards and so forth, and there's still a bit of that out there, absolutely. But I think even more so now, the photography, for example, the lighting, the mood, the quality of the photography. I think more so now in the digital menu age, the menu is more part of the brand and the marketing than, you know, people probably think.
So all of these things are shaping. So I might be running my restaurant or my bar thinking I actually don't do any marketing. I don't have a marketing person. I don't have a marketing budget, but I've been subconsciously marketing this whole time. And all of these things that reflect or create an impression of what we do at Bistro Pat have all been influenced by this. Kim, I'm going to throw one at you. That's again from the Q&A here. At Bistro Pat, where we do no marketing that we're aware of, we've got $2,000 to spend on marketing tomorrow. Where do we spend it? How do we decide where to spend it?
That's a good one. I think I was going to say it really depends on, you know, where you're starting and what the baseline looks like.
Starting from zero. I've only just found out at Bistro Pat that I've been marketing through my menu and I'm already doing some marketing. So let's say I'm a pretty entry level player here.
Yeah, this probably doesn't sound like maybe the right thing to say because it's not really like ad spend, but I would probably take my, you know, 10 most important people away for a weekend with $2,000 and sit down and figure out, what do we want customers walking away feeling? How do we want them feeling when they walk away? How do we want them talking about us to their friends? How do we want to be remembered when they, you know, tell their partner that they got to experience something cool that night? That would probably be what I would spend $2,000 on, just like creating alignment within the team on what is the message we want to communicate, because we've just gone through a full like website rebuild, which launched today, and it took us months and months and months. And actually, like we just went through like maybe, you know, Adrian went through like 500 iterations of our headline, and it took so much work because we were saying lots of different things throughout the COVID period. And, you know, one time it was about being numbers focused because, you know, it was hard at that time and like everyone was focusing on the numbers. And at one point it was about being like agile and being adaptable. And so we went through like a lot of, and this isn't restaurant marketing, but, you know, you're talking to your customers and it's kind of all about how you communicate what you want to communicate, whether that's through products, services, or technology. And the reason it was so hard is because the messaging kept changing for us over the last 12 months. And we wanted to like pop that up the top and figure out, well, what do we want to be remembered for in 12 months time, looking back on this moment. And when we got that, everything became really easy.
I think that's a really super important practical point. I remember a really high profile pub in a city I won't name, had great budget, you know, they spent some really good money on it. There were great people involved. But I remember in my capacity as a journalist and sleuth speaking to the chef and the owner and the person who ran the bar all on separate occasions. And they all had completely different ideas about what this venue was going to be, with not a lot of overlap. And they were all pursuing separate agendas that ultimately slowed the business down, confused its marketing, and brought it undone. And I think, you know, though that's not probably what the person who was asking the $2,000 question was expecting, Kim, I think that's a really, really great point. A restaurant, I guess, or a hospitality business can often be, even if we're all equal partners, a bit like the people in the dark room trying to describe the elephant. You know, the person holding the trunk thinks one thing, the person holding the foot thinks another. And until you switch the lights on and have a conversation, it's a hell of a lot easier to market the elephant as the elephant than this trunky, wrinkly, leather moving thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Angelo, you've got $2,000. You've got a small hospitality business. Where do you spend those $2,000 tomorrow?
I once heard.
Let's say you've decided that you're selling an elephant, for instance.
Touching on, just on relating to Kim's and Maz's points, I once heard Chris Lucas talk about why how they differentiate themselves from the market so much. And it's because they spend an ungodly amount on training. And it goes back to service, right? And it goes back to how you want your people in your restaurant to be describing the product so that the whole experience comes full circle. And that's what I would spend $2,000 on, although it might cost more than $2,000. I think it's 100% worth it. And one of the biggest pet peeves that we tried to avoid from the start is, yes, your whatever might look good on your menu, or whatever the promo is in the marketing or the creative might look great, but when it comes down to it, is your service and the product actually following through on that marketing.
Well, with the magic of everyone having a phone and a social media voice, I'm sure over the last year you saw a lot of reality versus promo photo situations. So we know we're all going to be pretty aware of that. Maz, how do you answer the $2,000 question? Just so I've got a 360 on this one.
For sure. I think
this question, by the way, thank you, Ricky, for asking that question. It was a winner.
It's a great question. And I think with my $2,000, I agree with Kim and Angelo in terms of the experience, but I also would talk to the existing customers who is coming into your venue at the moment. This is your money. These are the people that you want to come back. They're cheaper to market to because they're already existing. Hopefully you have collected their data compliantly and they've opted in, so you can communicate with them in a relevant way. But they also hold the keys to going more broad, going broader in terms of canvassing a wider audience. Where do these people live? What channels are they interested in? And a really simple tip would be to have some sort of incentive. It could be a competition. Go out to your existing customer database and ask them, what channels are they on? What do they use? Incentivize them to give you that data. If you can, put in a draw for a competition. But the people who are coming into your venue are one of your greatest resources. And you want to do two things. You want to get those guys back, and you also want to find out more about them so you can find more people like them and bring them in.
And let's freeze and enhance their team. Let's zoom in on that point, because for me, I think this is, as a total marketing noob, I think this is absolutely one of the most important things you can think of, because if you're a noob like me, you might often think that marketing, particularly with hospitality, is about bringing new people into your business, about finding more people, dragging them in off the street. And that's, an important thing to do. But I remember speaking to a marketing manager of a 3-hat restaurant in Sydney, very prominent place, and they had a good marketing team. They put a lot of thought and energy into it, but they tried an experiment once where they did the old 80-20, and instead of trying to cast the net wide and bring lots of people in, they just thought, what if we zoom in on those people who come to our restaurant all the time, and they found that every dollar spent servicing those people paid off tenfold. So yeah, marketing to the people who already love, and this is assuming you have an existing restaurant or existing hospitality business, super important. Mm-hmm. Is that your vibe? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think even doing big win campaigns, big successful campaigns there, and reach campaigns to get new customers should always have that retention piece in mind. Is, although I'm getting these guys in, how do I get them back? And that should be part of that initial campaign planning as well. Yeah.
The people who love you, make them love you more and bring them back more often. And they are, of course, also fantastic ambassadors for your business, or for your brand, as we like to say in marketing circles. When we are, Kim, when we are talking about brand marketing, what's the other marketing? What's the marketing that isn't brand?
There's I guess I wish Mads, our head of marketing, was on this call as well. So I'm going to try and...
Well, I'm going to throw to Maz then. Maz, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I think brand is involved in most parts of marketing, to be honest, but there's sort of brand campaigns where you might really be focusing, you might have different goals, for example. So a traditional brand campaign might be, I want a lot of people, I want to get my brand in front of a lot of people. I want them to watch this video. I want them to understand. I want them to retain. I want to be front of mind. And then there are more conversion driven campaigns where I want people to book online. I'm ready for them to book. I'm further down. I want people in here. I want them to buy tickets. And to me, that's probably the definition, is more about the campaign goal, which defines whether it's more strategic and booking or conversion led, or whether it's more brand reach and awareness. Because and they can cross over.
Less about Bistro Pat is a thing, you should go there, it exists, it does this, and more about right now at Bistro Pat, we're doing this.
That's right. That's right. A really strong conversion campaign should have really strong call to action, a great offer. Like you should be delivering the information to the customers about why they should book and why they should book right now, whether they might miss out, and the brand one is really traditionally a brand campaign is more about front of mind and getting the venue in front of as many people as possible.
There's a question from the audience from earlier in the session I think is worth looking at. How much money should we be putting aside to market our venues? I don't know how we answer that on a scale, or is there an industry kind of reckoning? Is there a percentage? What do we think? How does it work?
Question.
I feel like this might be a Maz question. I'm sorry to keep hitting.
That's okay.
You've got the face on that says you know the answer to this question.
Look, I've worked in companies where it's based on a percentage, 1, 2, 3% of revenue more. It's really a bit of a sliding scale, and I think it has to be an amount that you're comfortable with within your own budget. And I think, putting a dollar figure on it is difficult, but, if you're aiming for that sort of 2 or 3% of revenue as a starting point, and also putting in that strategy around marketing to existing customers and email marketing and so forth, these are pretty much free tools as well. So putting that in a bit of a separate bucket and making sure you're maximizing those before you even have to spend a lot of money in the paid space. But certainly, if you're sitting around that between 1 and 3% as a starting guide, that's not a bad indication.
And Kim, we have more tools at our disposal now. What are the low-hanging fruits? What are the things that as restaurateurs, bar owners, cafe owners, hospitality people that are right within our reach that we could pick up and start using straight away to better market our venues?
I think there's the really, really simple ones, like having a CRM. So that's having a platform. For those of us in
the cheap seats, what is a CRM?
It's a customer relationship.
Management. Yeah.
Is it relationship? Resource? Relationship management tool. You nearly caught me off guard. I was like, did I get that wrong?
And what is that? And what does it look like? I think through booking systems, a lot of restaurants, we're now familiar with that. So
yeah, I think you get hybrid tools as well. I think some booking systems have a bit of a CRM. Some email platforms are also a CRM. I think you kind of get like a combination of different molds. Largely, it's a place where your customer data exists. You can tag the data, so you can like profile your customers based on when they last visited, if you've got a birthday in their birthday, which venue they like, which site, which location they visited, if it's multi-site, what they, how they're engaging with your communication. And most platforms are attached to an email tool, an SMS tool, something like that, where you can push out comms. We know a lot of venues that don't have a CRM, and then the data just sits there, right? Because it's like, and you get the data. If someone's opted in, you get an email address, but if you're not pumping it into a platform of some sort, or you're not sending it out to a CRM of some sort, then it's really easy for that customer to then not be engaged with you anymore, and it doesn't take long for that lead.
That's just throwing away money, right? That's just me at doing that. Just put money in the bin.
Yeah, and we can learn from everyone gets emails from online retail stores. they're so good at the stuff because they don't have a shop front, and they haven't got a, like, they're e-commerce brands and they haven't got a shop front. So the only way they communicate with you is on all of these different channels. So, you know, we get emails from the same places once a week, maybe twice a week, and you might open them 20, 30, 40% of the time. It's really easy to see how that level of engagement then makes them top of mind the next time you want to go and buy something of that nature. So yeah, I think like Maz said, emails are free except for the CRM that you have to pay a subscription for, but a lot of them are very low cost as well. And when I remember, actually, I really distinctly remember trying to send my first EDM for an e-commerce brand that I had when I was much younger, and it was so daunting because you're sitting there with like,
oh my goodness, thousands of people are going to read this email when you go to
yeah,
get that now.
yeah, and it's like just this like totally blank page, and you don't know what to say or what to do, and then there's all these templates, and you're like trying to use different ones, and the emails that you get are so like beautifully designed that you're like intimidated at what you're gonna send. I think one nice trend actually in the last probably like 2 or 3 years is there's a lot more EDMs going out, like email, what's EDM stand for? Email direct marketing. Yeah, more emails going out that are like written like a normal email. So there's just a lot more like straight up like, hey, like, you know, and written by the owners, or, you know, if you run the restaurant, written by you and your partners, or even like someone that they might have interacted with, and just like send it out like you would a normal email with maybe a bit of a link or an offer and like an image or a GIF or something. And don't worry about like creating this super fancy template that actually does cost a lot of money to get designed and built.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, I have received a lot of emails over a lot of years from young chefs and restaurateurs saying, oh, look, I really want to like approach, you know, the restaurant, the newspapers and magazines, websites around my city. Like, should I have a big launch party, spend $1 million within a PR company? I don't have any money. I'm really worried. I don't know what to do. And I've just said to them, look, if you're an editor of, you know, Broadsheet or The Age or the Sydney Morning Herald or whatever, New York Times, 9 times out of 10, you'd really just rather hear from that person, that young chef, that young restaurateur, sending a straight up email just going, hi, you know, we've just opened, we're doing this. This is what we do. This is our menu. This is who I am. We'd love to talk to you a bit more. And I really think that you can extrapolate that to, you know, talking to any of your customers. I mean, that's the basic communication so much. Like, here we are, you know, the bells and whistles are cool and they work. And if you've got the money for it, you should take a look at that. But at a baseline, here I am, this is what I'm doing. Angelo, as someone who's speaking to this from the smaller hospitality side, what should we tell our brothers, sisters, and others with smaller hospitality businesses that they should be doing as an absolute baseline to market their business? What should we be doing? Just total business as usual, doing the least possible effort. But if we're not doing this, we're just crazy. Go.
I would say, you know, obviously get on all your socials.
Have a website.
The website, IG, Instagram, Facebook. I would say now that Zomato has left ANZ, you know, Google has really been paying a lot of dividends for us. So set up your Google business page for sure.
What does that involve? Here at Bistro Nourse, we're not that marketing savvy. What does that involve?
I think you just go on to search Google My Business, and then you follow the steps to sign up, and it's just as easy as that.
Put in your details, put in your hours, put link to your website, and boom.
You can start taking down the emails as Kim was alluding to. You know, the customers that come in, if you're using an online ordering platform, start turning that option on. So you can start building your database, and then once you get to a level where you're comfortable, you can start sending emails and, you know, really pushing out the marketing from there.
And what about speaking to press or, you know, that side of things? This is more a marketing conversation, so we won't go too much into that PR side of things. But did you have goals on that side when you opened Scoopy?
Yeah, I mean, a big goal for us and a milestone was, you know, to be featured in Broadsheet, Urban List, and The Age, you know, and we did manage to hit those goals. But I think it really comes down to you knowing your customers and, you know, do they read those? Do they frequent those? Is their attention even pointed toward that? Because if it doesn't, then maybe you won't be bringing the customers that you want to be bringing in. You might be bringing in the readers of those publications, which is good because that is bringing something else. But if you think about your target customer, you have to really think about, is that really going to pay the dividends for you?
Now, Maz, I'm going to jump to the other end of the spectrum. I work for the Pat Nourse group. We've got quite a few venues under our belt. We've grown organically, but we've got a few marketing people. We're pretty good at what we do, I think. But, you know, maybe we've been on autopilot, or maybe we've been doing the same marketing we've been doing for a while now, and it's ticking along. But how do I know if it's really working? And what should I be doing about it? It's 2021, the world's a different place. What do you reckon? How do you get a temperature of the effectiveness of, you know, I mean, we're looking at the data, of course, but how should we be assessing the quality of our marketing at Pat Nourse Industries?
Really good question. I think there's a couple of ways to approach this. And one is to forget about all of the vanity metrics that you can think of on social media. And
what are they? What are the vanity metrics?
Oh, likes and
cheap
shares and just things that may not correlate to people actually walking through your door.
Yeah. Instagram likes do not pay your rent.
Yeah. If we're going to break it down to like proper marketing measurement, you promoting an event and you want the event to sell out, that's a pretty good indication. But in terms of generic sort of ongoing campaigns and so forth, one of the things that we've shifted to that's a huge benefit of having Mr. Yum and this e-commerce data is the ability to track purchases. So, you know, by using the thank you confirmation URL after the purchase, you can plug this in. I can't go into huge detail on how to do it. You'll have to Google it, guys. But plugging it into Facebook using Google Tag Manager, you can then measure how many people have gone in, purchased on Mr. Yum, for example, and as a result of that ad campaign. So that's a digital example. I've been around a long time, I'm very old, and this is stuff that I used to dream about when I first started. It's like, how do I measure all of this money I'm spending up here? How do I work out if it's actually making an impact on people walking through the venue? So it's a big thing to have that e-commerce data attached to customers. But I would also, at a base level, if you don't have the digital menus yet and so forth, you're really looking at sales correlation as well. So event marketing is easier because it's based on bookings, ticketing, etc. Monitoring that as you go along. And I think one key piece of advice on that is don't just set and forget a campaign. Monitor it as you go. How many bookings came in on the first day? And if it's 0, what can we do? Can we tweak it? Can we create a different type of ad or a different email or whatever it is? But I have seen it in my years, a lot of set and forget. And I think that's one key tip I would have, is to make sure that we're monitoring those campaigns and changing them. Don't be scared to tweak and change and test different things. It's test and learn is really critical for hospitality marketing in particular.
We have a question that's come up a lot in the Q&A, so I can only ignore it for so long, but it's actually one I'm really curious to get the whole group's take on. What is the value of influencer marketing with venues? Angelo, you're smiling. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, just like our first marketing strategy, I guess, to start off was to really, sorry, is my connection unstable?
No, you're good. You're good.
You're good.
You're good. You're good. I'm good. We really didn't have the money to pay like the big influencers. So
And what are
what
we talking here?
we
For those of us
decided,
back at Bistro Nurse, what is a big influencer charging for what?
I haven't kept track of the rates, but you know, hundreds of dollars, up to $1,000, depending on how big the influencer is.
And this is for an Instagram post saying,
for an Instagram or story post. Yeah.
yeah, this is some great Bing, so you should get down and try this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we didn't have the money for that, and especially because we were new, we wanted to work with a whole bunch of different ones. So I mean, a good piece of advice we got at the start was work with smaller influencers, smaller creators who are trying to build their page, and also pretty local. So they have loyal followers. So
how do you find them, Angelo, and how do you engage with them? How do you know that they're the right people for your brand?
We look at the way I did it at the start was I looked at our followers and then just went down the rabbit hole to see which pages that they were following, and then looked at the similar pages from there and kind of made a list for myself, and then we reached out to each one of them. And I think, for us, that working with the influencer, you had to really can't be just transactional. We've approached it more of on a relationship basis. So we want to build a relationship with them because we're giving them free food, which I think is a small price to pay because they're broadcasting you out. And if that customer comes in, we think about how many times they're going to come throughout their lifetime, not just they're going to come once and then go, and they might do that, but I think
once they've tried that bingsu.
Yeah, once they're going to be hooked.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, there's definitely a lot of value in the influencer. So yeah, Maz.
What's your take, Kim? What's your vibe on this?
I think it's no different in food to any other category. Like influencers work 100% in creators, in in lifestyle, in food. Like it works in every regard, and it works because an individual might have some kind of relationship with their audience that has been built over a long period of time, and their jobs are not easy. Like what they have to do to gain that audience, keep that audience engaged, continue to deliver value to their audience, and they're working hard at essentially creating what is a valuable network. Probably the more important thing is like making sure that there's some kind of call to action that you can give them. Like, if they're just posting something and there's like nothing that their customers can engage with, maybe it doesn't turn out to be as valuable for you. If you have a great product, then you should try and get them to try the product like as quickly as possible, and then it becomes up to you to retain that customer. So I think if you see it as the first initial engagement, and then after that it's up to you to close and convert them, then it's very much a worthwhile exercise. It's kind of like the best way to think about Uber Eats as well, is you're going to pay 30% if you engage with that customer once, and then you manage to get them into your restaurant, and you manage to get them onto online ordering platforms that charge much less. Like 30% is probably worth paying for acquisition, but it's not worth paying for retention.
Maz, I mean, have you had some examples of particularly successful influencer marketing at Australian Venue Co that you can point to?
We've certainly dabbled in it. I don't have any specific examples. We're very ad hoc in the influencer space. What I would say is a bit of a watch out and a pitfall is the measurement piece. You'll often see influencers spruiking products with discount codes on Instagram, and that's a way to track, it's not just about the discount, it's about tracking how many, product sales that influencer has produced for the brand. And I think although it's a little bit trickier, we're getting to the stage now, Mr. Yum can do discount codes, for example. So I really love Angelo's approach of like local, relevant, good value, and building that relationship. Like he just nailed, like nailing it basically. But I think there's a measurement piece that you could layer onto that if you do have a digital menu or even a booking platform with a promo code engine, something like that, to make sure that you're getting some return on investment, because I think that's one of the key sort of watch outs with influencers is, do they actually work?
And that's it. I mean,
Totally.
over and over again, whatever we're talking about here, measuring the effectiveness of what you do is so crucial, so crucial. And talking to your customers can really help. I mean, I love your point from the beginning of our conversation, Maz, which is, or actually I think a few of you guys touched on this, is where are they? Where is your customer? Where do they interact with you? Are they Instagram people? Are they Facebook people? Should we be flossing together on TikTok? You know, if you're spending your time where your customer isn't, that's wasted time. We haven't been wasting time. We've been ripping through this hour, and we're actually in our last 10 minutes now. So rather than try to jam it in, let's give this plenty of space, because I want to close by going around each of you guys and just saying, if you're doing one thing right now, it should be this. What I've tuned into this session because I want to know more about how to market my venue. I'm going to start with you, Maz. What should I be doing in my hospitality business to make sure I'm marketing it well? What's our takeaway from today?
I've got two. So I think really, as I mentioned earlier, I think breaking down that customer journey, you will discover so much from breaking that down from pre-visit, in-venue visit, post-visit. What do all of those touch points look like? Map it out on a piece of paper and work out where you can add value and enhance the customer experience. I think once you nail that, you can then move on to campaigns as well. And then the second one is to really focus on your existing customers. Who are they? Can you get them back more often? Can you learn more about them to cast the net wider?
That's great. Angelo, Kim, who wants to jump in first? Okay, it's going to be you, Angelo.
Yeah. For me, this is aimed at maybe smaller, medium, not as large as ABC, but start thinking like a bigger business. Start thinking like McDonald's or maybe an ABC or some of these businesses, talking like, who are using data to their advantage and making decisions that are very data driven. And the first step to doing that is using the technology that's at hand, where you can start to gain insights and take action from it. And it comes down to the customer as well. So if I had to say another thing to focus on is really know who your customers are, profile them out, use the data, or you can profile them out before and then get the data to back that up and see what you missed. But profile that up, and I think your marketing dollars will go a little bit further.
That's great advice, and that can be, even if you're a bistro nurse level noob, that can be as simple as looking at your Instagram analytics.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a picture in your head of who your customer is, but when you actually look at the numbers, pay attention. Kim.
Yeah, probably my one big thing would be just to start, carve out some time. Like
start. Do it now. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, just do something. Just try something. Start somewhere. The one thing that we always hear is, especially for businesses that don't have the resources to hire a marketing person, which is the majority of food and beverage. That's the majority of hospitality businesses. So you're 100% not alone. If you have worked in restaurants and or you're a chef background or a front of house background, like marketing isn't your comfort zone, and so it's easy to say, oh, I don't have time, like I'm in the restaurant all day, I'm working in the venue. And probably the one thing would be like find a 2-hour, 2.5, 3-hour block each week and just like lock that away and dedicate that towards doing something related to marketing. That's like everything from understanding your customer all the way to looking at paid channels. And if you can drag someone in the team along that journey with you and make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fun, maybe someone who you think is like a natural at it in their like private life. Maybe they're super savvy on different social platforms and you want to give them something to contribute to outside of their like day-to-day job. Yeah, to try and like make time for it.
That's great advice. And actually, that just reminded me of a conversation we had with Maz outside this section where I think what you're saying was there's marketing people, but then there's people who know their venues, you know, and you've said for some of the jobs or the conversations you've required, you're much better off going to someone who works in the bar of the venue than marketing company X. You know, you don't underestimate how much you know your customer. Do the work, read the data, but
yes, and I also think you already have a team. If you've got wait staff, bar staff, you already have a marketing team. They're like a critical piece because they're the in-venue experience. So, and I think, like Kim said, you know, you'll often find someone who's studying marketing potentially. You'll find someone who's really interested in it, you know. And I think, but I think those on the ground in the coalface staff are more important to marketing than a lot of people realise.
This being a marketing driven session, it would be incredibly remiss of me not to give everyone a plug moment. Actually, before I jump in there, I would like to say one little marketing thing that I would like to suggest as a person who spends a lot of time looking at restaurant websites and going to restaurants. One, say hello to your customers when they walk into the venue and say goodbye when they leave. That's really good, costs you nothing, really great, leaves a big impression. Two, in these wonderful days of using third-party booking systems, oftentimes on your own website, it actually doesn't say anywhere what your opening hours are. So you may be relying on people just going into your booking system to figure out when you're open. Over and over again, and maybe I'm just a big nana and I don't get it, but over and over again, I think, what are your actual lunch and dinner hours? So just whack that on the top of all of your pages and put like book here on all of your website pages. Don't make me have to look all around your website for your opening hours and for how to make a reservation. Make it easy for me to come to your restaurant. Take my money, please. But this is a marketing focused session. So I will jump in while you guys think about what you'd like to plug. I'd like to jump in and say Melbourne Food and Wine Festival is staging 3 festivals this year, presented by our partners at the Bank of Melbourne and our partners at Visit Victoria. We've just had the March edition. Thank you to everyone who came. In winter, we will be doing the winter edition, which is a festival all about Melbourne. And that runs from the 30th of July to the 8th of August. Right now, we are taking submissions from anyone in the food business, restaurants, bars, cafes, him, you, her, me, to join our special events program. So if you haven't already received our industry EDM about that, hop onto our link tree or take a look at the industry section of mfwf.com.au before the 27th and join us at the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival's winter edition, because we'd love to have you be part of it. Okay, enough about
How are we gonna do a plug like that? Like I feel
it could be shorter. That would be good. Angelo, basic things. Where do we find you? What are you selling? And what's happening right now at Scoopy?
Yeah, the main place you can find us, scoopymilkbar.com.au for our website, Instagram, Scoopy Milk Bar, Facebook, Scoopy Milk Bar. We serve amazing Korean desserts that you have to come to try because you'll be hooked, as I said before. We also sell merch. So if you're down for that, check out our website and I promise you won't be disappointed.
I wish I thought to bring a hat. Marianne Maz Mewett from Australian Venue Co. You guys have venue on every street of every suburb of Australia. Enjoying the fruits of your labours at all times. But what's new happening?
Wow, I think a really good plug would be to talk about Winter Village, which is kicking off mid-May. Tickets are online as well, so it's across 5 locations. But we'll talk about Melbourne because we're in the Melbourne chat. And so the website is live. You can check it out. We've got an igloo village. We've got ice skating. We've got lots of other exciting venues coming up. So yeah, check out the website. I'm
so there. Thank you. And Kim, from our very favourite presenting partners for this industry series, Mr. Yum, thank you so much for your support. I've really enjoyed your general support of this series, but it's been a real pleasure having you in the room. Tell us what's happening in Mr. Yum land.
Yeah, for sure. So Mr. Yum is a online ordering and payment platform, mostly focused around the in-venue ordering experience. We just announced an 11 mil investment round today. So it's pretty exciting, and dropped a new website at the same time. So yeah, lots going on in our world. We're hiring, I don't know, it's probably 20 plus roles on the website, which is mryum.com. So check it out, and yeah, be in touch. Add me on LinkedIn, and my email is kim@mryum if you want to reach out.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. And above all, thank you to everyone at home for joining us. This has been a Melbourne Food and Wine Festival Industry Forum brought to you by Mr. Yum. I'm Ben Patnos. It's been a pleasure to have you all. See you at the next session. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks.